Batman has relaunched with a new #1, so let's talk about it. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and let's get to it. Batman, as an ongoing series, has not relaunched that often. This 2025 outing marks the 4th time it's occurred, time recording. Batman didn't even restart after Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985. What it did do was retell the character's origin story for that new continuity, and that was in issues 404 to 407, aka Batman Year 1. It officially got new #1 numbering in the New 52 in 2011. That was the line-wide reboot and large removal of Legacy era. It was again relaunched in 2016 for DC Rebirth, which brought back some of, but not all of, the pre-New 52 continuity. And now here, time of recording, it's being relaunched during the DC All-In era. There's a new creative team, well, half a new creative team. Matt Fraction is writing, with Jorge Jimenez on art, and Tomo Mori on colors. The book, which debuted on September 3rd of 2025, was meant to follow the Hush 2 storyline. If not in continuity, at least after that one finished up. We'll see where it ends up being continuity-wise. Hush 2 is a sequel, although Hush had returned many times prior to the original Hush storyline that ran through part of 2002 and 2003. At the very least, in terms of having the same creative team. It sees the return of Jeff Loeb writing, Jim Lee on pencils, Scott Williams on inks, and Alex Sinclair on colors. However, that book ended up being delayed. So what DC did was just went ahead with the launch of this Batman #1. It makes sense, they had already been hyping it up and promoting it. There were all kinds of covers and all kinds of things. I'm giving you all this context because these kind of little details can be lost to time, particularly delays, unless one was there. I was there, Gandalf. Now, in the lead up to this series, some of the talk was about Batman getting a new costume. It was going to have a lot more blue accents once more. Gotham was going to get a redesign. And the book touted that there would be something for everyone. Fraction stated, Jorge and I have a very superhero forward kind of take on Batman. We've got a new Batmobile, we've got a new costume, we've got new characters, and we got a lot of old ones too, good and bad. All the stuff that makes Batman the coolest character in comics. We want to celebrate it all. Part of the reason Batman has lasted as long and has resonated as loudly as a character is that he's incredibly resilient. He can be all kinds of things to all different people, all at the same time. Whether that's in the comics or in animation or in movies. Bear that last part in mind because it's going to end up being very relevant to how this first issue could be received. So with that groundwork laid, let's get to it. And since we're close to time of recording, spoilers. This is very much a just hop right into it #1. You could just pick it up, and while there may be some questions, there's nothing to the point that will deter one's ability to understand or enjoy, if one does end up enjoying it. It's very easy to follow. The plot is quite simple, I can describe it in one sentence. It's very concise because this book is more focused on setting up the atmosphere and vibe, and also Batman's characterization and introducing some new characters. It's basically setting up the lay of the land. The plot is, Killer Croc has escaped from Arkham Towers and Batman needs to get him back before the police. And as he's doing this, we're introduced to Gotham and the thought processes of its various denizens and of course the Dark Knight himself. Batman is not in a phase where he's very close with the police. He's having to work even more outside than usual. Jim Gordon is no longer the commissioner and has not been for a while. Instead, that's Vandal Savage. Yes, the immortal Vandal Savage, which comes with its own set of problems. Namely that at the moment he's trying to set up his own hyper-aggressive tactical response force that he wants to go out there first before the GCPD. Listen up, you men and women that call yourselves Gotham's finest. I'm bringing a force multiplier to your street presence from the world of private security. Tactical urban combat officers. They execute high-intensity security operations like recapturing tonight's escapee. They are deputized and sanctioned to aid and abet you in bringing back law and order to our streets. At all costs and by any means necessary. Any means. You're all to radio in for Tuco backup in the event of any augmented criminal activities. It's a great time to be a non-augmented criminal, maybe? So our sense of urgency for this one is that Batman needs to get to Killer Croc before Tuco does. He even mentions in Gotham Tower that the Gotham police will shoot to kill, and he's saying that even before this whole Tuco introduction. Now, before we get to Batman and how he's presented, let's briefly take a look at Gotham. Gotham's depiction here is edging even closer to looking like Neo-Gotham of Batman Beyond. It's higher tech, as are a lot of Batman's gadgets. You can even see this head over here above the billboard. It looks a lot like one of the Joker's gang you see in Batman Beyond. However, this isn't meant to feel like the future or anything like that. It's more meant to be more modern and contemporary. It's meant to be updated, and you get to see some of the status quo through these running TV channels at the bottom of the big splash page. They help deliver some information about the overall Gotham atmosphere, and they are mimicking some popular American TV stations, and also lightly channeling some Dark Knight Returns energy and using the media to convey information about the world, only they're laid out at the bottom of the page and not in the grid panel pattern. Even the gang that Batman stops from assaulting some woman in this issue as he hunts down Croc have some Joker's vibes in their costume. But that's been going on in the books for a while, at least since Joker War. As mentioned, the plot is less central to this. What it's doing is taking time to situate Batman inside of this universe. What can we expect from him? And some threads will likely be picked up later. Batman is introduced in Arkham Towers talking to Dr. Keller, who's a new character. And his conversation with her is meant to not only establish her headspace, but his. And it presents an idea that comes up more than once. It recurs to the point of potentially being a theme. We'll see if it remains going past this first issue, or if it's just a one-issue thing. Because this one issue could be fairly self-contained at some point. points. But as it's presented in this issue, it's central, and that's the idea that Bruce does not believe that people can change, which to me sounds like an edgy Batman statement, so he's gonna get the Nolan Bale voice.
You're new here, Doctor. Killer Croc hasn't been Waylon Jones for a long time. I try to keep them separate in my mind. It's easier that way, when they inevitably disappoint you.
Waylon may be a supervillain to you, but he's a patient to me. Waylon Jones is changing Batman. He began asceticis, shedding his skin, but it continued deeper, as though he were shedding everything inside and out.
People never change. Not really.
Now, as mentioned, this comes up more than once. Batman even flat out saying it to the Alfred Spectre he's talking with, that either he's right or the Doctor is. Now, because it comes up more than once, accepting this headspace becomes central to accepting Batman, in the very least in this issue and potentially going forward. Because it appears to be something, since it's repeated, that may be factoring into the overall characterization. Now, for this, let's recall Fraction's statement at the outset of this video. That on Batman being many things to many people, because it could be key here. For some, Batman is rigid, judgmental, unforgiving. And so for them, this statement will match entirely, and the flow of this issue, which is Batman having that belief challenged in his interaction with Croc, is more likely to land.
I hate the zoo. I know you did, buddy. I know.
It's potentially laying the groundwork to a gentler, more accepting Batman, not just of others, but of himself. A road to potential heartwarming tales. And here's where it must be noted that everybody is coming to Batman from a different area, different vantage points, and from different times. For some, maybe this is the first time. Maybe some people are coming over from Absolute, the New 52, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age. Maybe people aren't even coming over from comics at all. Maybe they're coming from movies. If so, which era? Maybe they're coming from animation, TV series. Or maybe it's some combination, or all of the above. So that can explain how for those whom Batman's belief in redemption and that people can change is core to his character, for them this may not land. And you have depictions of both. Batman's empathy for his villains and his belief that they can change, and his need that they have to be able to change, is central, for example, to his Batman TAS characterization. It's also something you'll see in certain Bronze Age stories. It's really post-identity crisis where you start to see that paranoid creep become all-encompassing. And depending upon the era, it can be exacerbated to really unhealthy levels. For some, the idea that Batman has a hard time trusting people rings true, but that's separate from believing that people can't change. Not trusting people would entirely align with why he doesn't believe when a reformation is going on, or that if somebody breaks out, it's not to do bad. Always prepared and all that. However, as mentioned, that is different than not believing people can change at all. If that were to be the case, it would raise many questions. One, is this a newly held belief based on past experiences, or is it meant to be a forever belief? Or is it something he's trying to convince himself of to make things easier, which some of the later interactions would bear out? As if it's meant to be a forever belief, it can lead to even further questions, such as if that's the case, then why take in Jason Todd? Why give him a costume? Why attempt anything with Damian? Just send him back to the Demon's Head and Talia. Why hold out hope for people like Harvey Dent or Harley Quinn? You could get really, really extreme with it and even think, why bother saving anyone at all? Of course, some will argue that not believing people can change doesn't equate to not upholding the conventions of society Batman holds dear, but it would mean that the question could be broached. Be that as it may, what's presented here is meant to align with a certain story flow and structure. And that is the sentiment that Batman does want to believe that people can change, and that he wants to be able to help them. And it's also tied to a potential hope that he himself can change, which is something that many may align with.
You know, Waylon, I used to have one of these in my house. Oh, big house. Yeah, it was.
There's a real gentleness to this and how he gets down to his level and takes his cowl down. It showcases a more open Bruce, at least with the vulnerable, although some may take issue with the cowl removal. He also still retains his core let's scare some criminals energy, for they are a superstitious and cowardly lot. This when he's first going to confront Croc. But he also doesn't want to scare innocents like children, which you see when he has the guard put away his gun, which serves the dual purpose of reinforcing his anti-gun stance and highlighting a care for children or those who he views in that kind of vulnerable position. So this isn't an uncaring Batman by any means, although he still has some rough edges. So far, time of recording, it's issue 1. It does culminate in a really sweet moment where he ends up with a mini dinosaur as a trophy from Croc, which is a nice ode to his former giant dinosaur, and also symbolic, because Dr. Keller gave it to Croc first as a calming tool.
Oh, now she help. Oh, help you. My head is okay, Waylon. I don't need help. If you say so.
Batman always needs help. It just depends how much, depending upon the era. You can have some eras where he's very, very stable and others where he's completely unhinged, which again leads credence to that Fraction quote at the beginning, because you can make a case for either. It's just because there's so much history they need to back it up. Our teaser for the next issue, aside from an actual page of what's coming soon, is a really nice full page of Robin, which was my 5-year-old's favorite page. And after that, there's a teaser for DCKO, King Omega, which in my heart will forever be Knockout. It just makes sense. And that is Batman #1. As a #1, it does exactly what it's supposed to. It establishes tone, environment, introduces the reader to the character and their headspace. You get to see some of what Batman is dealing with. Can people truly change? Can he change? He's missing Alfred. You also get to see him take on some criminals. You set up some situational dangers with Batman versus the Police or Vandal Savage. The new vibe gets a chance to be shown, as well as the costume and some new tech. The main new character of Dr. Keller is given enough time to have a bit of a personality, which seems to be kind, optimistic, sympathetic for now. You made a bad choice, Waylon. Now you can make a good choice. Don't be evil, but also don't date Bruce. Please don't date Bruce. Please don't end up dating Bruce. This number 1 is also something you can just hop into, although that doesn't mean it ignores everything that came before it. For example, Jim Gordon's status quo and the like. It doesn't direct you back to where that happened, but there are enough threads that one could look into it if one so chose. This Batman number 1 is also a beautiful book. You can tell him and Ed's enjoyed playing around with the costume and tech and the city. It's not the most action-based issue or the most hook-based one in that regard, but for those who resonate with the general atmosphere and environment that it weaves and this characterization of Batman, I can see them really loving it. While for others, I can see it being a bit more meh, gotta let it build, let it cook, whereas for some, they may flat out reject it. So as always, mileage varies. I have a soft spot for this one, although for me personally, it landed on the let it build kind of front, and that's because my 8-year-old, yes, 2 of my children read this one, had some very strong opinions on this book, and they were, wow, Batman is really cool, I love his glider, I wonder if he still has a bat plane. This book was super cool. So that's the 8-year-old equivalent of 10 out of 10, no notes. It's things like that that can build a lifelong love. Even if there are still flaws, there's a core connection being made, and that's special. But who knows, maybe she'll hate Batman next week. All of these are just mine and a tiny bit of my daughter's mad musings. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think? Is this your first Batman? Do you like this relaunch if it is or isn't? Do you think that Batman believes people can change? Do you think that's an important part of his character? How do you like the blue? They made such a big deal about it. Are you all in? I'll be so sad when they change the initiative name. The banter is so low with it and I reach for it every time. Please share your thoughts, and while you're down there, please all YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.